105 on the Fan, hour 4 of our radio program. Benigno and Robinson at midday, 877-337-6666 is the phone number here for another hour. Of course, the afternoon drive comes your way at 2 o'clock. Bart Scott, Maggie Gray, and Chris Carlin, Dov Kramer, Ernie Acosta. On the other side of the glass is Gary with us right now. Gary Myers.
Gary Myers.
Wow.
Gary,
what's happening, fellas?
So let's start with this. I mean, so we hear this stunning announcement last week. I mean, a stunning announcement that after 29 years with you at the New York Daily News, being the staple, the bastion of football excellence, and I don't want to get crazy
wow.
here.
That's how
I'm being nice. I'm being nice.
Wow.
I don't always agree with Gary, but but nevertheless, you're gone. I mean, what happened?
Well, first of all, it's more important for me to know how you're feeling.
Well, I'm getting better. I mean, my hip is definitely getting better, and I had some issues as far as walking that were not related to my hip, and I still got to get an MRI on my back. They say I may have some back issues, even though my back doesn't hurt. But last couple of days since I went to the doctor Tuesday, I have to say I feel a lot better.
Well, that's good. Before I answer your question, I'm just going to say that I think it's been a very successful spring training for our Mets. We made it through with only 2 pitchers getting hurt, and none of them are the top 5 guys that we've been worrying about for years. So let's get the season started, right?
There you go, only 2. Right.
You should hear it. I don't want to repeat names because it's wrong, but there's a lot of people making very inappropriate comments about Rafael Montero. Here's the point. We feel bad for the kid. Hopefully he can recover and be successful somewhere else. All right, I wish him all the best.
That's it.
Absolutely. But, with Harvey staying healthy and the rest of those guys, I consider it a successful spring. As far as my own situation, all I can tell you right now is that I was as surprised, and this is the line I've been using, I was as surprised when I got a phone call last week as Eli was when McAdoo called him into his office and told him that Geno Smith was starting. But I'm good, really. I mean,
let me just stop you for a second. So this was not your decision to leave.
No, but, the paper has been sold, and they have to make, financial decisions. And, maybe they felt the same way you did when you introduced me and I was making too much money. I don't know. I always thought they never paid me enough.
Right, well.
But I don't really know what went into all of it. But, I had a great run there. Who stays in a job for 29 years? And I really appreciated, the opportunity to have hopefully a strong voice in the New York marketplace, my hometown. And, I wrote passionately about the Jets and Giants in the NFL and onward and upward. I mean, I'm really excited about the future, and I think I've built up, enough goodwill and credibility over the years that hopefully some opportunities will come my way that'll get me real excited.
Well, have you seen the betting odds? Because there's a lot of betting odds on where you end up. All right, would you want to
really? I'd like to know what they are.
All right,
maybe you should get in on this, Gary.
The favorite right now in the clubhouse is the Athletic. Okay, they're the favorite. The second one I'm surprised about. The second one says you hosting a show with Mike Francesa wherever he goes.
Wow.
That's actually number 2 at 25-1, believe it or not.
Where are you reading these odds from? You just scribbled these down now?
Yeah, I scribbled them down about 3.5 minutes ago. And the third one...
The Post?
I heard the Post is a long shot. And then also ESPN.com is also a possibility. And Joe, as we know, if he goes to ESPN.com, we'll never hear from him again.
We can't have him on.
He'll disappear. He'll be like, I never heard of Joe and Evan. Who are those guys?
That is true.
Well, here's all I can tell you is I really... It's been less than a week. I'm finishing up a book on the Cowboys that I am incredibly excited about. It's coming out in October.
Wow.
Is this on the
history of the Cowboys? What is it? Let me get the title, America's Team.
No. We really haven't settled on a title yet.
But is it the history of the Cowboys from 1960 on?
No, I'm not going back that far. There's been so many books written about that. It's really what makes the Cowboys tick these days.
I see.
I had really extensive interviews with all of the Joneses, Parcells, Jimmy Johnson, Jason Witten, Romo. I really have some cool stuff. So I'm excited about it. My wife, who has a much better sense of humor than I do, she suggested the title Jerry Does Dallas.
That's not bad.
And that's actually
not bad.
pretty good. I like that.
Not bad, yeah.
But for a variety of reasons, my editor rejected that. So kind of back at the drawing table.
Why?
But,
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good. That's good.
Yeah, what's the issue with
you guys liked it? Maybe I'll push for it again.
Yeah.
What's the issue? What's the editor's problem?
There's nothing.
The publisher.
There's nothing.
Jerry does Dallas, Debbie does Dallas.
No, I understand that, but this is different. I mean, it's totally different mindset.
Well, I got a good reaction from you guys on that.
I like it.
I think it's terrific.
I like it. I think it makes sense.
Yep.
The other one that we were tossing around was Cowboys Inc.
No.
Kind of got to really show what they're made of.
That doesn't do it. No.
Different on that one?
I don't want it.
All right. Okay, so I'll push for Jerry Does Dallas.
Yeah, Jerry Does Dallas is good.
Yeah, I like that.
We're like a focus group for you,
Right.
Gary.
You know what you got to write a book about? Seriously.
Perfect.
Seriously, here's the book you got to write. You got to write the despicable history of the New York Jets. Now, really, you do. About the disgraceful franchise that they have been for the last 50 years.
Yeah, and the title could be simply, if you're okay with this, the title could just be Pain.
Right.
And then underneath, the despicable history of the New York Jets.
No, it's got to be the pain.
But I mean, that's what you need. Seriously, you need to write about what the mismanagement, the horrible ownership, the terrible head coaching, the never having a quarterback. I mean, this is what this is the acceptance constantly of mediocrity. This is what you need to write about.
Well, I will tell you that a couple of years ago, I did approach my publisher with an idea of doing the 50-year anniversary of the one moment in Jets history that Joe Benigno was proud of.
One shining moment, yes.
Yeah, one shining moment. And I couldn't get much traction on it, and so I didn't do it. But it's not a bad idea. I mean, Jerry Eskenazi wrote a book probably like within the last 10 years that kind of summed up the Jets somewhat. Maybe it's time for another one. I don't know. Listen, under the direction of Chris and Woody Johnson, I don't know what you're worried about.
Oh yeah, no, I'm confident.
Oh, you're funny, Gary.
I almost wish Leon Hess was still the owner. That's how bad it is.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
Hess was still the owner. He would have got a few more years out of ourselves. That's about the best thing that would have come.
Well, maybe we would have had Belichick. You never know. Maybe.
That's
the big difference. I think that's the big difference.
Yep.
What was your reaction? Because today, we come on, not that much going on. We're talking about LeBron. We're talking about the NBA. And all of a sudden, boom, JPP traded to Tampa, swap a 4s for a 3. Your initial reaction to the Giant trade today?
Well, I was surprised. But, Gettleman's not screwing around here. And if, the Giants switch into a 3-4, he's not a really great fit for the new defense, for James Betcher's defense, and I think they're going to. I think it doesn't take a genius right now to figure out. Well, that maybe means they're going to take Bradley Chubb in the first round. I still think they should take a quarterback, but that's just me. It's a quarterback-driven league. I don't think JPP's production equals what the contract they signed him to last year. I think Olivier Vernon at this point, if you're going to pay one of the two, he's the guy to pay. I think he's a more productive player. He's more disruptive against the run. And other than a couple of bursts in his career when he was trying to get a new contract, JPP, I just don't think he was an elite defensive end. I mean, he had a couple of runs there. In the Super Bowl year, he was terrific. In 2011, when he was trying to get a new contract a few years ago, he had a bunch of sacks toward the end of the year that inflated his total. I think they're going younger and cheaper there, and I would not discount the possibility, just the fact of what happened a few years ago on July 4th. I'm not sure the relationship between the Giants and JPP was ever mended after that.
What about what the Jets have done? The moves they made in free agency, obviously, and obviously the trade up to get a quarterback at 3. What do you think?
Well, Joe, I think because they re-signed, and first of all, I think it was great they didn't get Kirk Cousins. I don't know how you felt about that, but
I was either way. It didn't really faze me. They didn't get him.
Yeah, I just thought he's a top 15 quarterback, no better than that. He'll be better with Minnesota because they're a Super Bowl ready team, but considering what McCagnon did last year by stripping down the roster, how do you bring in all kids and then bring in a $30 million quarterback? It just didn't make any sense. It would go completely against the game plan that he's established. As far as I love the trade. considering what the Jets do in the second round, the history of the second round, give away everything.
No, we've talked about that. No, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
But I think, to me, what this really means in combination with bringing back Josh McCown, which I liked, I think it means Josh Allen because he's a guy I think is going to have to probably sit half the season and learn. I'm not in favor of the red shirt with Hackenberg. I think that stuff was awful. Josh Rosen, to me, is the guy who is most ready to play and would most be almost like a seamless transition.
Yeah, but he's also most likeliest to suffer another concussion. I mean, he's already had a couple at such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, that's a concern. He had 2 last year. I met him at the Super Bowl. I talked to him for a while. I think he's a great kid. There's stuff about him being disruptive in the locker room or his teammates not liking him. He's a really bright guy. His father's an orthopedic surgeon. He speaks his mind on social issues, which I think is fine. He's got a great arm. He's incredibly accurate. I think he's got the personality for New York. But, Evan, I agree with you. The concussion thing really is a concern because the more you have, the more susceptible you become to the next one. And, quarterbacks hit the ground a lot. And every time he goes down, you're going to be a little bit worried about that. I'm sure the Jets and Giants are doing their homework with that. Josh Allen, I mean, I've been hearing all year that Jets are on Josh Allen. They've been to every one of his games. I think he has the highest upside of any of these 4 guys, but he's got by far the biggest bust factor here because of the level of competition, and he didn't even complete 60% of his passes, although you can say that the guys he's throwing passes to are going to be driving, beer trucks in about 3 weeks. He was great at the combine, but, it's nice if you throw a ball 70 yards in the air, but you show me a quarterback that has the time to throw a pass 70 yards in the air. It's kind of a useless thing. If that translates well to arm strength throwing the outs, then that's great.
You have any confidence that Teddy Bridgewater could bounce back and, maybe he winds up being the guy? What about that?
No, because the Vikings know him best. And even before he got hurt, they made the playoffs that year. And remember, they missed that field goal against Seattle.
Yep.
I thought he was just okay, Joe. He doesn't have a great arm. I know he's a young player when he got hurt, so he's certainly going to get better. But now this was a horrific knee injury. But I'm okay with the signing because the Jets don't have much money.
No, it's worth a shot for a year, sure, of course.
And listen, if he plays lights out in training camp and in the preseason games, and somebody gets a quarterback hurt, you can get a draft choice out of him. So it's a small investment with a chance of a big reward. Remember the Eagles a couple of years ago got a 1 and a 4 for Sam Bradford when
No.
What do I think about when Bridgewater got hurt? Okay, and I don't think they can get that much for Bridgewater now because he's had his own injuries. But I think that probably factored into the Jets' thinking is that if he plays great in training camp, that perhaps they can get a draft pick out of it for him.
We're talking to Gary Myers, talking a little football, Jets and Giants. The signing of Nate Solder is, to me, it's tremendous. I mean, I understand he's never been a Pro Bowl or anything like that, but they needed they needed to get Eric Flowers away from left tackle. How do you feel about this offensive line moving forward? We know they lost Pugh, they lost Richburg, they're replacing Richburg with Brett Jones, they signed the left guard from Jacksonville. What's your overall feel for this Giants offensive line now?
Well, I don't think anybody in the league thinks that Nate Solder should be the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history, but it's all about the market and need. And the Giants were desperate. They knew they couldn't play Eric Flowers at left tackle anymore. He's a solid guy. Against a really great pass rush in the Super Bowl, his guy never touched Brady. In fact, their whole offensive line played great until that last series, or the second to last series. I like the signing. He's supposedly, a terrific guy. I think people are going to like him. He has a really sad story with his little boy having been diagnosed with kidney cancer when he was only like three months old or 6 months old. I think New York's, terrific cancer hospitals had a lot to do with why he wanted to play here. He's supposedly just a great locker room guy. he's not. Listen, he's not Jonathan Ogden or Walter Jones or Orlando Pace, but there aren't a lot of those guys.
Well, he
around.
is compared to Eric Flowers.
To Flowers.
I mean,
Eric,
in comparison, he's going to feel like it. What was that?
I said, but so are you.
No, let's not get nuts
you
here.
out there than Eric Flowers.
I'm 5'9", 170. Come on.
No, Joe before the hip surgery, I put it left tackle.
That's me. I can see it now.
But listen, I think it's a good signing. He was the best of the left tackles out there, and they had to get him. I think they'll take offensive linemen early and often in this draft. You know what I've been telling people is, and you guys know this. The draft is more than just the first round. Everybody says, "Oh, you got to get an impact player, at the top of the draft. That's why you got to take Barkley, or you can't take a quarterback for the Giants because, they want to play Eli for a couple of years." Well, the thing is, there's plenty more rounds after the first round to get players. And see, if I'm the Giants, and I've watched Eli play his entire career, and last year I was probably at 13 Giants games. I know he had no offensive line. I know he didn't have any skill position players, but he also wasn't very good. And other than he's had the weirdest career. Other than those amazing Super Bowl runs, he hasn't won a playoff game in his career. And I just think he's really close to being done. He's been hit so much over the last few years. The Giants need to invest in a quarterback.
Unless they believe in Davis Webb. Unless they believe in the guy.
Listen, I like John Mara an awful lot. When he let go of Ben McAdoo, he should have called Steve Spagnuolo in, and instead of saying who you going to play a quarterback, he should have told him you're playing Davis Webb at quarterback.
I agree with you.
That.
We said it at the time.
They had to find out about him, and they don't know anything. Now what the Giants need to do is they need to gauge Davis Webb as if he's coming into the draft this year. And they need to put him up against these four guys. And if they can honestly tell themselves that Davis Webb is as good as any of these four guys, then of course you don't take a quarterback. You got one in the building. But if there's a tremendous difference between what they're watching on tape of Webb coming out of college and from practice last year and what they see from who they can get at number two, anybody but Darnold because he's gone to Cleveland, then I think you have to take a quarterback. You just have to. You're not going to be picking top 5 next year, most likely. It could be a bad quarterback next year. Nobody can ever tell a year in advance. You just have to make that investment and then wait for the guy. You just have to do it at some point, and this is the perfect time to do it, only unless they really believe in Davis Webb, then you don't have to do that.
That's the thing. I've been saying this before. If they don't take a quarterback, to me, it's like Gettleman is drafting Davis Webb. He now becomes attached to Davis Webb the way GMs are when they draft a quarterback.
Listen, I didn't have a problem with what McAdoo did last year or what he was trying to do.
The problem was Geno. The problem was Geno Smith.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah.
To make that switch, he should have gone to Davis Webb. We knew what Geno Smith was. There was no point in giving him a game. There was no point in giving him a quarter. We know what Geno Smith is. We don't know what Davis Webb is. The Giants felt, what can we learn about him playing behind a crappy offensive line with no weapons? It's not going to tell us anything. Well, no, that's wrong. To see him in game action versus in practice, you always find out something. How he handles adversity. Can he make the team? Can he lift the team up a little bit? They could have just seen something. Instead, they have nothing. And then with a whole new staff and a new GM coming in, they have nothing to go by but except watching practice tape from last summer. I mean, it made no sense to me, and that's why they're in the position they are now. Is if they don't take a quarterback, they don't know if they have their guy in Davis Webb.
Talking to Gary Myers. Do you see any drop off in the Patriots?
Well, they've lost a lot. I mean,
what does that mean? It means nothing.
With Belichick, I mean,
come on. They lost $1 million guys. Does it matter? They could lose Gronkowski for the year. Does it matter? Come on.
Well, Gronk, I think, would matter, but
does it? They lost him for half the season 2 years ago, and they won the Super Bowl.
I know, you're right.
I mean, come on.
I mean, they lose Amendola, but they're getting Amendola.
It's about Brady. It's about Brady and Belichick.
Brady and the coach.
That's it.
That's all it is, and it's been that way for 18 years. Everybody else is replaceable, a replaceable part, an interchangeable part. Belichick is by far the best coach. Brady, still to me, is the best quarterback. And until we see him looking like he's 41 years old and playing like it, they're going to be there every year. He's going to find ways to find players in the draft, plug in and play players. Some of these under-the-radar free agent signings and trades that he's made, they just all fit what he's doing. And they're just tremendous at that. And I don't see anything that keeps them from winning the AFC East relatively easy again this year. And then they get home field advantage straight through the playoffs, and they're back in the Super Bowl.
Right.
The most shocking thing about the Patriots to me was that when Brady had the ball with 2 minutes to go, they didn't win the game.
I know.
Yeah.
That was stunning.
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
But
let me ask you this. I want to jump in on this, too. What happened with Malcolm Butler? Do you have any idea?
I've not heard a definitive answer. And I will say this, people are critical of the New York media all the time and how we do things. I guarantee you guys that if that happened and it was the Giants or Jets, we would know by now what happened.
So you're ripping the Boston media? They're soft?
I'm just saying I don't think they're as aggressive as we are. I think that the Boston media, to a certain extent, has thrown in the towel on Belichick. They know they get nothing out of him, and they just accept it.
Right.
And that place is so secretive. That was just bizarre. I know he didn't show up with the team in Minneapolis because he was sick, and that wasn't like his decision not to go with the team. They told him that. And then I've heard he didn't have a great week of practice. But you know what? The guy played 98% of the snaps. Tom Brady's the only guy on the team that played more snaps than Malcolm Butler during the season. And then when they're getting their butt chewed up by Nick Foles in the first quarter, no matter how Malcolm Butler looked in practice, could he have been any worse than what a slop they were throwing out there trying to stop Foles? I mean, Belichick, rather, there was just there's something there that we don't know about yet that eventually I think will come out. Butler's not saying anything. He just got paid.
Right,
He's going to keep his mouth shut. Belichick will never say anything. And I don't think that the media there is – I think that story's in the past. They're not worried about it anymore. We would have found out, though, if that was here.
So this could be your next gig? You go to Boston, you can become that pit bull of the Boston media. You're in.
No. I'll tell you that. This is what I do want to say about what I'm going to be doing going forward. I've covered the league for 40 years. I'm looking to take on some projects. I think there might be some opportunities there for me to do some really fun stuff. My youngest is going to be 23 in June. He has a great job. He came by the Super Bowl this year. He had some business at the Super Bowl, and then he stayed for the game. So I took him to the Friday night party, which I haven't been to in years, but I thought it would be a lot of fun for him to go. So from a distance, we see Josh Rosen. And my son Andrew says, I'm going to go over and talk to him. I said, be my guest. So they start talking, and they talk for like 15 minutes. And Josh Rosen apparently was living with Wilton Speight, who was the quarterback at Michigan. My son just graduated Michigan, right? So long story short, he's talking to him about 15 minutes. And he walks over to me, and I said, how was it? He goes, he's a really nice guy. We hit it off. We talked. I said, that just convinced me that covering the league is not for me anymore on a day, to have to go in locker rooms. I said, that kid is 2 years younger than you. And I said, I can't interview him.
Right. And
so I'm trying to find things that are like real meaningful projects, for me to do. But
have you had offers, Gav? Have you been offered anything?
Joe, I hate the answer I'm going to give you because I hate it when people do this. I just can't say anything.
I can't say anything.
Okay. All right,
April 1st, I'll tell you.
I know.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Not that. It's not to do with the date or anything like that. It's just until I know for sure what I'm going to do, I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to say anything, and I am going to go to the league meetings for the Daily News this week. I'm excited about that. I'm going to write a farewell column.
Don't mention the butt fumble, all right? You don't need to put that in there. It's unnecessary.
I did that
overrated moment.
You got to stop it.
Do you have time for me to tell you one quick story?
It depends on Dove's look
butt
at me.
fumble again?
No. So 1998, when the Jets signed
Curtis
Martin, I have to admit, and I've never run from this, I didn't think it was a great idea. Curtis, if you remember, had an abdominal injury. Either he played sparingly or not at all in the Patriots playoff game. He had a gazillion carries in his first 3 years. It was a 6-year, $36 million contract, and I think it was giving up a 1 and a 3. Mm-hmm. So I wrote, I didn't think this was a great move. Running backs are easy to find, and why would you give a 1 and a 3 for a guy who's already got 3 years of tread on the tires and 1 million carries, and he's coming off a bad injury? I didn't know Curtis at all at that point, and what an incredibly wonderful guy he is. So I read a column that, Parcells screwed up, and I don't know why he would give up so much. He has a soft spot for Curtis because he drafted him in New England. So I come home. That happens at the league meetings when the Patriots decide not to match. I come home, and there's three messages on my answering sheet in a row from Bill Parcells' secretary. Gary, you got to call Bill. Bill wants to talk to you. Mm-hmm. Gary, aren't you home yet? Bill needs you. Gary, you got to call Bill. So I'm going, Jesus, what's going on? So I call him up, and he goes, I don't understand it. I go, what's the matter, Bill? He goes, why don't you like me? I go, what are you talking about, Bill? I've known you forever. I have no problem with you. You're one of my favorite guys.
Right.
He goes, why are you always venting me? And they said, Bill, why do you care? He goes, because, every time I make one of these moves, you're getting all over me for this. And I explained to him my feeling about this, and as he would always say, no disrespect intended. That was one of his great lines, So, we smoothed it out, and Bill and I have a great relationship now. But the point of the story I'm going to tell you is that, so then I got on the Hall of Fame committee about 8 years ago, and it was my responsibility in those meetings to present Curtis Morton's case. And the next year or 2 years later, I was the first one up talking about Bill Parcells. And each time I made the initial presentation, they got elected to the Hall of Fame. So I ripped Bill, 20 years earlier for making this move, and Curtis because he wasn't, worthy of the money or the draft picks.
Right.
And then I'm the one that's making that presentation that is in the Hall of Fame. So it all kind of comes full circle in this business, and nothing I ever wrote was personal. I mean, there are guys I like better than others. I mean, I always liked Parcells a lot better than Belichick. But I never really let that factor in. At least I tried not to. Mm-hmm. The Belichick I might have a little bit. I never let that factor into, trying to be objective and really giving the fans what they want to read. And, Joe, I know that you and I, over the years, have butted heads on the Jets. We became really good friends when we did some SNY stuff together. I think I got to understand you a little more, and you certainly began to understand me a little more. And maybe we bonded over the Mets and our misery.
Well, look, I mean, you just got to, when it comes to the Jets, you just got to understand where I'm coming from. It's 50 years. They've been inept as could possibly be. I'm sick and tired of it. And before I die, I want to see another Super Bowl. I mean, it's very simple. So why would I have anything but negativity in my mind over that franchise, right?
I can understand, and I am as passionate about the Mets as you are about the Mets and the Jets, and Evan, you with the Nets and the Jets and all that. I understand. I mean, I get it. And what I tell people a lot of times is when they're heartbroken over a loss, I'm saying, you take this much harder than the players do.
Oh, we know that. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
That's not even debatable.
The Giants and Jets suffer a heartbreaking loss, and on the way out of the locker room, the players are yucking it up, and the time they're going to eat after the game with the fans. But you can't eat dinner. Right.
Can't sleep.
These losses stay with you forever. I mean, we could go on. You know that. I mean, these are part of what I am. I mean, they stay with me for a lifetime.
I still see Lucas do this throw.
Don't die. Listen, that's still too fresh.
Right, exactly.
Still too fresh. I'm disgusted.
So I'm right there with you. Football, I grew up a Giants fan. I have no problem admitting that. As soon as I started doing this, and I didn't dislike the Jets. It was kind of handed down to me from my dad. But as soon as I started doing this, I really, honestly, never had an allegiance to any team. People accuse me of loving the Cowboys and hating the Cowboys because I worked in Dallas for 8 years. I really don't have any emotional attachment to any of the teams. The Mets, Syracuse, and Michigan, I live and die with those teams.
Well, you got games this weekend. Well, you got Michigan tonight and you got Syracuse tomorrow. So you got those going.
Here's the thing. So my boy graduates Michigan last year. I was so into – my daughter went to Wisconsin before that. My other daughter went to WashU in St. Louis. There was nothing really to root for there. But as soon as she was done in Wisconsin, I switched my allegiance when he started with Michigan because you can't root for two Big Ten teams. I rooted as hard for Michigan his 4 years there and then last year as I've ever rooted for any team. I went to Syracuse. The football team there has been terrible forever. Jim Boeheim was an assistant coach when I was at Syracuse. I've known him for a long time. I actually spoke to him on the phone the other day to wish him well. So I know what it's like to be a passionate football fan because I still am in the things I don't have to write about. It's why I never, ever wanted to write about baseball because I wouldn't be able to be a Met fan anymore. And as painful as it's been, it's still fun, and you guys know that.
No, of course.
So I always understood, Jet and Giant fans being upset with me because I wasn't writing what they wanted to hear because frankly, if I read a negative thing about Syracuse or Michigan or the Mets, I get upset the same way, and these are my friends who are writing this stuff. So I always got it with the fans, and it is the greatest fan base to write for because everybody's so knowledgeable. And there are a lot of nasty people. Stuff that I get on Twitter that nobody would ever say to my face, and I'm embarrassed to say it to my face, but I don't really care about that.
Yeah.
It bothers my kids more than me. I kind of got a kick out of it, but I always felt like because I felt like one of them, well, meaning them being the fans, because I grew up here, and I care so much about my job and how I approached it, and trying to always give people what they want to read or what I felt they needed to know. That it's really been a blast, and I'm not retiring. I'm just going to find something else to do.
Well, congrats on the years at the news. We look
Absolutely.
forward to what you're doing next, and we appreciate you coming on, Gary. Best
Great
of luck.
having you
man.
on.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is I really hope that to continue. We're going to continue the Chalk Talk stuff at FAN, and when I get Joe Klecko next time, I expect both of you to be there.
Well, I want to be there when it's Hall of Fame time. I want to be the guy. I want to be the guy.
I'm trying.
Help getting this guy.
I'll tell you this: it's the
disgraced that he's
seniors
not here.
committee. It's the seniors committee.
No, I know.
And I'm not on that committee, but I've
I'm
tried
a
with
senior
Joe.
too, so I'm ready to go handle that committee. You know what I mean, bro?
I think you can handle it, man. I think
I'm ready
Joe's
to
the
roll.
guy. Joe's
I'm ready
the guy.
to get Klecko in the hall.
I know, and I've been trying really hard the last 2 years with Kevin Mawai.
Him
And
too.
he's come really, really close. And I think he's going to get in next year, but, there's no guarantee.
We'll see.
By the way, Gary, you got to know when you do reveal whatever you're going to do next besides your book on the Cowboys, you got to come on our show and tell us what it is now.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to want people to know.
Yeah.
Because I like to think I have a good following, so I want them to know what I'm going to be doing, and I appreciate that offer. That'd be great. And listen, I hope that we can still do this every now and then.
Why not?
I love coming on with you guys because of the passion. I always listen to you when I'm in the car, when I'm home. So, and I'm not just saying that; it's really true.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate it.
All right, and let's go Mets, right?
Indeed.
There
Let's
you go.
go Mets. 7 days, week from today, baby.
Bet the over. It's 80.5.
Evan, are you going?
I'll be there. 28 in a row, my friend. 28 in a row.
Evan, I'll just tell you. Remember my friend who that when I saw you a couple of weeks ago at that thing at Citi Field?
Right.
When you with your dad?
Yes.
So my friend, Dr. Freeman, has season tickets. He used to have 4. He only has 2, right behind home plate in the Delta Club. So every now and then he gives them to me, or I go with him. And so he calls me yesterday. He goes, "We have a family vacation plan, and we're gonna be out of town. You want my tickets for opening day?" And I said, "Well, I'm coming back from the league meetings Wednesday night." I said, "I'd love to have them." I said, "I just can't. If it's 30 degrees, I'm not doing it."
Oh, come on. It's opening day.
No, they're saying
bundle up.
56 and sun. Didn't you say that?
But
Yeah, the latest forecast is.
I know, but the fact that it's a Delta Club and I can sneak inside whenever
You're cheating,
I
basically.
whip out,
Yeah.
I will be there.
Good for you, man. It should be a lot of fun.
Beautiful.
A
It's
week from
probably
today.
like my 20th Mets opening day in my life.
Nice.
And, I'm pumped.
Me too. I can't wait. Gary, we appreciate it.
Gary, great having you on, man.
Gary
Thanks
Myers.
so much for having me, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Gary Myers of the Daily News for now, and then who knows what's coming next.
Yep.